So welcome to this episode of The Elect Life. My name is Liz McGee. Who knows where we're going to be next year? The world is quickly melting, molding, falling into chaos. But to stem this tide, at least in our nation, which I do believe there's a biblical precedent and understanding for that belief. But right now, today, I mean, everything that America stands for, our Bill of Rights, our Constitution, the form of republic that we have, the Union, what binds us together is under great siege. And for most part, there's just this huge yawning silence out there, quote unquote. But this is under our freedoms, people, overnight. Freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom to bear arms, freedom from undue and repressive government intrusion into our lives without our voting for, without our having any say in the matter. It's getting extremely dire and extremely time to take action. This is a runaway freight train. It doesn't look good. So I want to just say, on another note, the title of this is, hey, I'm proud to be an American, and I'm proud to be a white American. Like, okay? So let me go through my whole little speech here. But there is much to celebrate. But it is time for the quote-unquote, the people. That's our republic. We, the people, to rise up and to do something. And what do we do? You know, when the foundations crumble, what will the righteous do? It's time to, you cannot be silenced, and it is really time. It is time to rise up, to get our muscle, to understand who we are. I'm talking to the house of Ephraim and the house of Judah that is here. We are the other land. We are the place that in the West, which is at the time of the end of the age, that there will be the most majority of Joseph's coat of many colors with the house of Judah in a governmental situation. It's called America, and we are in prophecy. But that's many playlists on that. But it is time now to rise up and to begin to get the moral fortitude and the spiritual balls to lock them up. Now, who are we talking about? It's taken me my whole life really to figure out. Well, let me, before I say that, just say it's time now for people. Listen, I'm talking to a demographic, the good people, okay? And I'll define that more and more. But listen, you've got to start to get control of your consciousness. You are what you think. We have to get back our critical cognitive thinking skills. We have to learn and believe in and reclaim our moral foundation, what founded this nation, why we have a 4th of July, why it's worth celebrating. We have there's nothing different, nothing new under the sun. America is just at a place again where it's, who's gonna lead, rule, and enjoy the benefit or consume the blessings. The sons of darkness or the sons of light? Which side are you on? Are you a son of the Most High God, or are you a son of Lucifer? It's really clear. Are you a son of light, or are you a son of darkness? And are your deeds full of light and goodness, or are your deeds evil? These things are pretty clear when you can get back your cognitive thinking skills. So are you a lawless person, or are you a Torah? And by Torah, okay, trigger words, people, this is how are you a Bible believing? Do you believe that there's a foundational code of biblical ethics in the Torah that is worth fighting for, upholding, and is God-given? Called the 10 Commandments. The wheat and the tares grow together in every generation. Even in the time of Yeshua, Jesus, the Mashiach, Messiah ben Joseph came. He said this pretty much. He said, look, you will know them by their fruit. The wheat and the tares do grow together, but there will be an end of the age. There will be a harvest, and somehow you're going to be able to tell the two different crops apart. The wheat goes in the barn, and the tares get torched. So it's all very allegorical language for deep realities. But the point is, there has to be a way to tell the difference. The question is, all my life, I've been trying to find out who they are. Who are they that keep spoiling it for the rest of us? Who are, so I have for my purposes, I have a pretty full answer, all right, but that suits my purposes and meets my understanding. But really and truly, I'm tired of being the fall guy. for these tares. And who are the tares? Really and truly, they're the wicked in every generation. If the righteous are born into every generation, people, what our Bible says, well, logically, the wicked are born into every generation. And it's constantly a fight. That's, all right? What are the wicked? Whatever you call them, okay? And to whatever form they take, you know, a Hitler or a Stalin, or, you know, a repressive regime that even has a facade of freedom, but is truly on the inside, you know, full of ravenous wolves, which really was the state of Israel, you know, at the time. They were a republic. Well, I won't go into this, but this has happened. You know, nothing's new in the sun. History repeats itself. But we're here. These tares are really deeply embedded in our government, in our media, in our entertainment, in our heads, like I said, in our food, getting into our genetics. It's very serious. Into our consciousness. Okay, the wicked. All right, biblically, this is today a shadow government who operates into black ops. This is the deep state. This is the Freemasons, the Illuminati, the Luciferians, you know, the big, these globalistic entities that are trying to literally rule the world, bring America into its net, and rule the world. Okay, they have a huge hidden agenda. They all backdoor policies, and they know who they are, and they have all sorts of ways of communicating with each other. Meanwhile, the simple in Ephraim, aka the Christians, who are some of the most duped people, you know, and even the Jews, you lost your muscle. What's going on? Why are we letting this happen? Okay, these wicked, let me tell you what, the Bible is very clear, and history is very clear. The wicked, these are people who kill, and these are all biblical words, phrases. All right, the wicked, who kill. Starting off with Cain and Abel. Cain. All right, they kill, they oppress, they prey on, they scheme against, they use craft, witchcraft, and subtlety. They manipulate, they steal, they make poor, they make whole and pockets of people poor. They take advantage of the weak, the powerless, the needy, and the fringe. Okay, they are lovers of money. They love money, love pleasure, and love sexual immorality and perversion. They have dark arts that they have been practicing for millennium, which is thousands of years. This is a huge problem. This is the cursed race. All right, these are the Canaanites. These are who have intermarried and morphed. Their seed is in all the earth, just like Yah's seed, God's seed, the seed of Abraham is in all the earth. Right? The earth is the ground. Two seeds were put in the earth. Two harvests coming. All right. Their dark arts, full of occult practices, dark ritualistic. That it says in Paul says in one place that it's even a shame to speak of what these people do in darkness. It's so nasty and perverse. It's like, okay, I get a glimpse of it. I get it. But I can't dwell. It's so wicked and evil. And the problem is most good people, it doesn't even enter their brainwaves. You don't even think like this. This is so, these kind of thoughts or ways of acting wouldn't even occur to you, all right? Because you're of a different bloodline, a different seed line. This is interdimensional and intergalactic. Sorry, but can't call it. But we're in such a place, God's people, of perverseness, that we just love to entertain ourselves, entertain our sensibilities, our emotional life, our mental life, and in their practices, or voyeuristically watch it and let it seep into our brain in a very slow way. Okay, you can cook something slowly, low heat, or you can cook it flash torch it, but the outcome is the same. But these people love to this is and the thing is, the level of their lawlessness and their wickedness today, it's global, and it knows no bounds, and just continues to get evil continually. These people are stealing the chi, the prana, the life force through ritualistic sacrifice and torture of children, of babies. She's got to get to know this, people, this whole dark world, and it's historically accurate. This is what the Mayans, this is what different pockets of culture have been doing. This is what part of the story of Judaism, and it tells us in our scriptures. These people can weasel their way in, and when they do, watch out. When evil triumphs, all right? So we have to begin to wake up and not call everything conspiracy. That these people, are saying, don't call everything a conspiracy when it's grounded in history, when it's grounded in biblical exegesis and foundation. Okay, grow up, handle the meat of the word, get to know what's going on in your world. Now, one of the things. Okay, so we obviously there's definitely a war going on for the soul of America, the future of America, the rule of America, and the place of America. Okay, totally. Huge. See, these things have entered biblical proportions, like with the pandemic that was like just overnight blew up into a worldwide. This is what are the principalities, the things that influence it. We're dealing now with huge principalities, powers, and spiritual wickedness is in high places. You have to understand these things, because most people are so biblically illiterate, they have no idea in real reality what's being talked about. All right, but the one thing is, okay, so who's going to save us from this mess? All right, and I like with a lot of people, I'm kind of like, what's going on? Where's leadership? I've been looking for leadership from the government, leadership from the church. Somebody's got to lead us out of this mess. Somebody's got to restore law and order. I have no problem talking about and fixing and continuing to pour light on dark situations and bring justice and freedom and from oppression and servitude and economic, targeting, okay? But it cannot be, American society cannot be on a backdrop of mob rule. That's just not how it works here. I'm not interested in a French Revolution, okay? When the lawless are allowed to that really, seriously, it's an emotional response. See, I'm saying we have to think with our mind, with reason, with rationale, with an empirical truth, which, I'm doing a whole series. I can prove to you the Bible is totally empirical, observable, dependable, repeatable. We just don't know it. We just don't know. All right, but anyways, so the point is so for the Republicans, I'm looking, okay, where's Trump? I think Trump's fighting a different war personally, and I think that hopefully it's true. And all right, but I think that the Senate leadership, the Republican leader, whoever you might think might be bastions of law and order, where are they? Why aren't we and even good people? Where are the good people rising up? They have done so much. The spirits of this age to silence us, to put fear in us, to make us feel like, well, wait a minute. Okay, I must be the crazy one, You're fine, but I'm the crazy one, okay? Which is such a control, mind manipulation. It's just unbelievable. So that black is white and white is black. Good is now evil. Evil is good. How do they do that? These are masters of craft, of witchcraft, of subtlety, of mind control. Okay, so what's the antidote here? Who's going to come and rescue us? But the church, let me just say, I'm totally like, if this is the leadership for the last days, then we're in a lot of trouble. It's not going to happen. I don't believe it. And it's been prophesied that this crop of leadership that has stayed behind closed doors and adjured the people to will just obey the authorities, not even understanding, going back into the Greek, really understanding what we're dealing with here. We are dealing with the word stoichion, which even in your Strongs will tell you, if you'll do a little research, really historically, not the current veneer or gloss on it, it refers to elemental spirits, cosmic or spiritual entities, ancient astral beings, or do you want to call them fallen angels? Okay? That's this. No, we don't obey them. You don't tell people to obey these magistrates who impose godless, Torahless policy on God's people. No. Okay? So this is the level of not understanding. We talk about the blind leading the blind. So what's our, what are the righteous to do? Well, Daniel prophesied in 11:32 that the Father was going to have a remnant, that those who know their God will resist firmly. Those who know their God will be strong and do exploits, and they need now to unite under the God of Israel, because ultimately we will have a Messiah ben David come. Ultimately, the king will come and establish rule and authority, and he will lock them up. This is the whole point of the millennium. People have to understand the fallen angels, these principalities will be locked up again. They were locked up at the time of Noah, before Noah, before the flood. This is the whole point with the angels of Hermon that came down, and infiltrated again into the whole genetics and the whole system of the world that God was creating, all right, and they re-engineered everything, so it was continually wickedness, which is where we are today, all right? This is really serious. We have to, ultimately Messiah, this is his point, as king, it will lock them up, all right? But in the meantime, we are the ones that are going to have to fight this present darkness, okay? You can't be looking, to other parts. We have to band together. We have to unite. We have to understand who we are and who our God is. And if we will come back under his banner, he will fight for us. But the thing is, God's people have got to get themselves free of this God of this age and the trap that is put around the minds of people. All right, and has them. This is like a hook, like he's leading them their emotional life. Most of this whole mob scene, amphitheater, first of all, it being funded. You understand something, people. There's two kinds of people in the world. We're talking about the sons of light and the sons of darkness. Today, okay, you call them globalists, nationalists, these multinationals who are trying to bring the world under the hegemony of a one world government, including a one world economy, a one world religion, a a false echad. Okay, that's prophesied biblically. That's happening in the world. Open your eyes. These people are not God-fearing or Torah-keeping by any stretch of the imagination. And the simple, is a word, the stupid, the uneducated, those who are blown about by every wind of doctrine, just sort of follow them like the hooks. Put a hook in that group and bring them over here. Oh, blah, blah. Let's just. Okay, so anyways, God's people have to become God-fearing again. You got to understand that Yahweh is in charge. Right now, we're going to see more. Elohim arise. Elohim, the God of judgment, is ratcheting up and being felt in the earth, and it's only going to be felt more and more. If you're on the side where your actions, your deeds, your thoughts need judgment, it's go time. Okay, that's why it's come out of her, my people. Come out of Babylon. Come out of Egypt. Come out of these systems that will make you do sin, grow sin, live in it, think it, ingest it, whatever, or come into a place of blessing, obedience, Torah in the house. There's so many. There's just so many archetypes of ways of explaining this, but the reality is pretty simple. But I want it for all reasons and purposes. I am just really tired. See, this is my thing. I am tired of being the fall guy. And all, quote unquote, the good people, being the fall guy for these friggin' tares. All right? These tares who do not know how to do good. They don't even know how. All right? You have to understand, until the end of the age, yes, this good news, this ability to be grafted back into the true Israel, those who, Joseph's coat of many colors, to the house of Israel, to the original covenant that really Yah made with Adam, that he would restore his position and his seed, that he would totally eradicate all of this evil and wickedness springing from, all right? And it's going to happen, and we're getting there to the end game, but it's going to be a real big fight to the finish, and people, we have to fight. Okay, and then what are the weapons of our warfare? That's a little bit of it's obviously not mob rule, okay? Now, the wicked, but I want to give 3 stories. I just want to say, okay, so that's my premise, and people really, my premise is that there is good people out there who God has been preparing. The Father, Elohim, Yahweh Elohim, Hashem, has been preparing for such a time as this, to rise up, to be strong, to do exploits. And we need to find each other and release each other and encourage each other and be strong together with each other. Not only for the sake of our nation and our prophetic destiny, but for the sake of the world who needs, they need the word. Why do you think that the Father gave Abraham in the sense of this birthright blessing, so that he could be a blessing to the nations. So we better be about our Father's business. But I just want to give 3 personal stories. Okay, so this is my history, and you can't erase it because it's mine, and I have documentation. Okay, and so for the record. So I want to give 3 kind of unrelated incidents, but they paint a picture together. When I was a young, my husband and I, now this is why I want to say something. We have to get, I guess learn who, quote unquote, they are. Okay? And you understand something. They hide. So you have to do due diligence. It's very difficult today because we do not have a free press. It is so under siege right now. Google, these people really do have their platforms to lock down information, to control, to totally strip us of our rights. And it's happening right before our very eyes, quickly. So rise up, oh man of God. Okay, but my husband and I met and married in California. We originally lived in Southern California. We actually bought a home in Lake Elsinore, which was one of these young developing areas in Southern Cal, and it looked like a lovely place to raise our family. We had a young boy, and we thought we'd be there for a while, and life was good. Until my husband, who was a writer, gets a job at the local newspaper, and and I wasn't even prepared for this. Nothing prepared me for this. But we found out that we were really in, when it was all said and done, and we could look with some true hindsight and understanding, we had really landed smack dab into one of the most deep state corrupt Ponzi schemes of California at the time. The people understand how the 80s were such a time of growth and expansion. The tears were just having a heyday in their little backdoor deals and everything, and literally stripping the land of its resources for their own personal aggrandization, which is bottom line what it happens. So what happened is Lake Elsinore was historically in what was called a floodplain, a 100-year floodplain, and so the land basically around this one freshwater lake in the high desert there was worth $1 an acre. Matter of fact, a whole new crop of city legislator talent had come into town and taken these offices and were buying up the land on the side for $1 an acre. And a lot of the locals were realizing this and like, okay, well, this stinks. What's going on? And so there was a faction in town, and my husband, as a reporter, they immediately came to him and said, well, let me just tell you what's going on in this town. And they were like, no, come on, this is the happy land. There's no bad people in my happy land. Okay, so basically, it was a Ponzi scheme, because what would happen is, as soon as they bought up all the floodplain, basically they were in cahoots with the water district and the governmental agencies, state capitals up in Sacramento, protected. They were going to turn around and sell this, all of a sudden change the law so it's not a floodplain anymore, and all this land they had that was so undeveloped yesterday was going to become prime real estate today, and there was buku, millions of dollars at stake in this. But a lot of people, there was a very strong vocal contingent who were like, hey, this is totally corrupt, and they were deliberately, again, forcing people that had generationally been off this land and making it so economically difficult for them so that they would leave. So again, they could keep buying up this whole floodplain for $1 an acre. So anyways, we're succeeding quite rapidly, but there would be stories like, they would tell us, like, you got to watch out for these people because, they tried to put like acid in our jacuzzi, one couple would say, or run us down, or just for things that I'm listening, I'm going, oh, people don't do that. That's only in the movies. I mean, these people are really a little extreme, until one day we found, my husband went out to our garage in the middle of the afternoon, and there's this huge rattlesnake in the middle of the garage. And oh my gosh, that was quite freaky and very unusual, and he called control center and animal control and had it taken care of. But the backdrop is that every day in the afternoon, right at that time, our 2-year-old son would be out in the garage in the cool of the afternoon on the pavement there, the cement, because it would make it cooler, and he'd be riding his little scooter, his little tricycle. We let him play out there, not in the hot sun. He would have been out there. Except for the day before, how good our Father is and how he does watch out for the righteous. The day before, my husband decided, hey, you know what, we should switch up Brendan's routine, because he would go to a babysitter for a few hours in the morning. or in the afternoon. And he said, well, let's change it to the morning and this kind of thing. And we had just done that. So lo and behold, my son would have been, and I'm sure that's the intention. We found, it really freaked us out, a rattlesnake and closeness to our son and he being in harm's way. And I was walking around the property outside, and we were on a corner lot, and I was going by, and there was an article that my husband had just written in the Daily Rag, and opened up and circled to his article where he was trying to expose some of this stuff. And I was like, okay, no way, this is too crazy. This is not our fight. We basically, within 3 weeks, we had sold our house and we were moving back east to our family where we knew people, you know, this is true, people. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. The second part, and this is what's even more disturbing. So I just want you to know, the deep state, these people really do Ponzi scheme. There is just an insane level of corruption. So don't pretend that, don't call everything conspiracy that everyone's trying to point out to you, all right? Now, the other thing I have to say, but this is even more disturbing. And this is a fact, I'm sorry, and I have records, and I have, but this one, really, and it really is only coming into focus now as I truly understand it on a much bigger picture. Why are the blacks targeted? They are definitely targeted as a group. All right, but my experience, okay, so we were in Lake Elsinore, and the other thing that was surfacing was that there was all this air traffic. There was this kind of very obscure, kind of almost hidden airport, and there was a lot of traffic going on, and people would try to tell my husband stories about this. And it turns out, okay, so that they were shipping, this is part of the dirty little wars of this corrupt cartel, deep state. People, doesn't matter, Republican one administration, Democrat the next, in the FBI in one administration, and the CIA in the next. They're like, they don't care, they're black, white, red, it doesn't matter. They could care less what the outward appearance is. The point is they're ravenous wolves on the inside, and their fruit is all the same. But anyways, they were shipping the drugs from Mexico into Lake Elsinore. The drugs were getting on trucks and going into the Crenshaw district of Lake Elsinore. From Lake Elsinore into the Crenshaw district of LA. And this was going on for a whole generation. I mean, it just 7, 8, 10 years, it decimated a whole generation of youth, especially of black youth. I mean, and they were making buku bucks, and they were subverting the money. I mean, it's just a nasty scheme they do. And then the other half, some of it was going in the connection to Mena, Arkansas. I mean, this whole, don't think this Clinton cartel is made up, people. The dots do connect. The point is we need to get our muscle and we need to lock them up. All right? These people, but what was even more insidious is my husband, years later, he was watching C-SPAN, and the Black Caucus, rightly so, was absolutely incensed and enraged and had their moment, to rail on, saying, how could you let this happen? How could you let this happen on your watch? There was some kind of oversight committee, and they were presenting the evidence and saying, you know, how can this happen in America? They were targeted. They knew they had the documentation. This had happened, and they lost a whole, and it's been happened repeatedly, overly. And they're not the only groups that are targeted, but the blacks they have been sold down the river by their quote-unquote, this Democratic Party has gotten progressively infiltrated by these Luciferian, Freemason, globalists who are not Americans. All right, look at their job. This is a fact, people. It's out there. Amidst the simple and Ephraim who just, but we want everyone to be equal. And I mean, okay, fine. But who's implementing and who's making and implementing your laws? The godless? Or the Torah keeping, the righteous. Okay, so anyways, these drugs, this is happening. This is happening before. The blacks have to wake up and there's a demographic. I mean, really, there's so much evidence out there. It's mind-boggling, but it is not. I'm tired of taking the fall for these tears, okay, and their love of money and their. Okay, I'm done with it. But then I want to tell you the flip side. I do want to tell you, okay, so my husband, we tried to expose this. We were, young kids. I mean, when I think about it, how innocent and naive, and what did I really, and it just stirred my sensibilities in my happy land. These wicked people. But I didn't have enough maturity or context or anything for it. But I do have lived through the memory, and I have the documentation. The point is, why I'm proud to be an American. Listen, I'm proud to even be a white American. Let me tell you about my people. I have no reason in the world. These people were not racist, and I'm done with you. I'm telling you, sit down and shut up. This vocal voice out there, this spirit that the media loves to put out there and make and paint with the hugest broad brush and make everything that the tears do my fault. You need to sit down. I'm really serious, and shut up. The level of racha, of personal hatred, of animosity that is going towards civil war, that is being pushed. Understand how spiritual energy pushes. All right, energy, that's what it does. It pushes momentum. And it's trying to start a civil war. It's trying to ruin our union, okay? Now, I come from, this white, you know what? The first white child born in Rhode Island was a Maxon, okay? Okay, but what's really even more interesting, this is history. Why do we have to rewrite it? We just have to understand it, put it in its context. But these people, I'm telling you what, the most God-fearing, biblically literate, Torah-keeping, Ten Commandments focused people that came from England on the second boat after Plymouth, and there was one that came close to the winter, and then one that came again in the spring, and again another wave that came on quote unquote the Griffin, which was a boat that brought Anne Hutchinson, and a lot of her, John Maxon and Anne Hutchinson were very close. I have a lineage or a cross, a marital. Oh God, how do I even say that? I'm part of the Hutchinson clan also in intermarrying, which is also a very whole interesting little side note. But the point is, those who really founded the principles and set the foundation for this nation, make no mistake, they were God-fearing, Torah-keeping, good, decent, hard-working people who had a fear of God and wanted to make a nation of freedom for their children after centuries of despotic rule by these illegitimate royal families, really, who were keeping them totally, like the wicked, oppressed, poor, beaten down, all right? So they came here, and they knew exactly what they were doing. This is the point. They knew exactly what they were doing. And these people, okay, so what I want to say is these people went on to live 70, 80, 90. I have a relative of 103. This woman who came from England, started out in the whole Lincolnshire and area, came here, died in Westerly, Rhode Island at 103, had 13 children, and forged this whole area without technology, without refrigeration, without air conditioning, without cell phones. It's astounding, the strength, the endurance, the life skills. And I've read that these people are happy, they're prosperous, they're living under heaven in a lot of ways. I've gone back and seen a lot of the ancient, in America, what's ancient, 300 years, I guess, 350 years, okay, homesteads. And it's amazing, the blessing and the prosperity and of their generations. But these women, I have to say something here. No, I am not a modern day feminist, okay, by any stretch of the imagination. And more I lament and I regret and I am burdened for our generation, women, especially the younger women, because people don't understand what we're throwing out. When you always throw the baby out with the bathwater, you have no idea. Oh my gosh. But these women who had these 8 to 13 children, so you understand, it's all how you look at it. It's all perspective. They knew their highest mission in life was to produce oaks of righteousness. Do you know what that is biblically? That is strong, Torah-keeping offspring who will go forward and continue to plant righteousness in their generation. What is wrong with that? What is wrong with wanting to raise a whole crop of kids who are decent, hardworking, honest, Torah-keeping, who will go on and have, offspring as this thing moves forward? There is nothing. And you will not call these people or my people racist. Nobody had slaves. Nobody was doing it. Everybody was interfacing in the best they could in difficult situations with hostility within and with this hostility without. But they were a breed of people who you have no business comparing yourself to. But these women had a mission, and they did produce generations of righteous Torah-keeping people, to the point now it says that the way the math works, I mean, in my particular line, I mean, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people, and I'm just one, so you multiply that. There's way more of Yah's seed, Abraham's seed in the world than there is of these Luciferian overlords. We can easily do this, people. But the other thing that happened that was interesting, I want to say, is why you don't tear down your history. Like, hello. Okay, did you come into the world thinking you were going to get a perfect world? I mean, I don't know where that came from. Did you not figure out early on, when you went to grammar school and kids are bullying and there's stuff, that the world is not perfect and there's injustice and you might have to fight for, your rights or the rights of the downtrodden a little bit? That there's a lot. Okay, so I don't know where you got this idea that life is perfect, should be perfect, and you have somehow a magic wand to make it perfect. Makes no sense. Anyways, West Hopkinton, Rhode Island is where this group of people, my people, the Maxon side, came and settled about 1630, 1640, 1650, and then as Westerly grew, they moved to the town that they went from Hopkinton down to the mouth of the river, 30 miles to the mouth of the river. But they wanted to preserve, a good thing there were forward-thinking and informed citizens who understand history. Just because something, you paved your parking lot, you cut down the trees and put up a parking lot, doesn't mean that you can't retain what was historically there before it. You need to, you should. Any smart thinking person would do that. So anyways, they erected a plaque outside of the area that they had to move the church and the gravesite that was around it to another area, but they left a plaque in that area, and it basically said the history of about 4 or 5 generations of the Seventh-day Baptist Church, of which the Maxons had about a 4 or 5 year lineage as pastors and elders. Okay, and they had to move it to a whole different area where they put up a gravestones and markers so that it could be preserved, so that I can know. Now, I know there's whole pockets of people here in this area who don't have that advantage, but that injustice is not an automatic shut-off valve for the fact that there is still justice out there. Don't ever think that a whole is totally devoid of it, all right? I can't fix every wrong. You can't fix every wrong. You have to just be cognitively and critically aware. And so I'm very thankful that this has been preserved. And, there's no statue up there. It's probably not going to get ripped down or anything. But the point is, these are real people. These are my people. I know their history. I have documentation. These are the righteous. These are the salt of the earth. And I'm tired of the tares using them, infiltrating them and saying that they were a group of deists and demigods and people who, no, you don't know what you're trying to infiltrate my mind and true history with lies. And sit down and shut up. So listen. On that note, really, Shabbat Shalom, and we will get back our heritage, our prophetic destiny, and we will be a blessing and exercise our birthright covenant to be a place of refuge for the nations out of the dragon's reach as this tribulation keeps ramping up. Shalom, shalom, be blessed.